The Meta Quest 2 was one of the most important stepping stones into making VR affordable and accessible for everyone, not just people with technical knowledge and a mega powerful gaming PC. And it very much succeeded in doing so. So now, it's time for a new generation, the Meta Quest 3. And it's got some major shoes to fill. And with its thinner form factor, bigger lenses, and most importantly, full color pass-through and mixed reality, I think it does it. There's still some shortcomings, and you honestly might be best off with the Quest 2 still. But the Quest 3 is an excellent headset and takes the legacy of the Quest 2 and runs with it. I'll get all the boring stuff out of the way first. The processor has a huge upgrade to the Qualcomm Snapdragon XR2 Gen 2. That's over double the GPU power of the Quest 2. Cool games better run. And new displays with a resolution of 2064 by 2208 per eye, which is 47% more than the Quest 2, and trust me, it's noticeable. You'll also get 8 gigs of RAM, which is 2 gigs higher than the Quest 2, and the same base storage option of 128 gigs. However, now the highest storage option is 512 instead of 256. Around the front of the headset, you've got these 3 pills. In each of the outer pill, there's a monochrome camera for positional tracking and a full color camera for mixed reality. I'll talk more about the mixed reality later, that's a huge part of this headset. In that middle pill, you'll find the depth sensor, which is used for a ton of new features, which again, I'll get to it later, calm down. There's also 2 more tracking cameras on the bottom of the headset that are more similar to the ones seen on the Quest 2. The unboxing's pretty good. The box is around half the size of the Quest 2 box, and the presentation is just a lot nicer. After pulling the cardboard seal tabs, you'll be greeted with the headset and the new controllers. You've got a Type-C to Type-C cable and an 18-watt charging brick, and honestly, I completely missed both of those when I first unboxed it. I just kind of assumed it didn't come with any cables. But like every other modern piece of tech, you'll also get a quick start guide that goes over the headset and how to use it. The setup process has a few differences compared to the Quest 2. First off, putting on the headset drops you straight into pass-through, as opposed to the Quest 2, which puts you in a standard VR environment first. After you pair the controllers and select a language, the headset tells you to adjust everything to make sure it's all clear, then prompts you to open the Meta Quest app on your phone to get a QR code to set up the network. Unlike the Quest 2, which had no other option aside from typing in the details manually, which is very annoying, especially without any form of pass-through, like in that setup. After you look at the QR code, the headset restarts to apply any updates and prompts you to open the Quest app again to log into your Meta account and pair your headset. Like the Quest 2, the Meta Quest app is entirely optional after it's set up. Once everything's paired, the headset puts a cool little 3D model of itself in your room and starts setting up the boundary. Once the boundary's set up, you'll drop straight into the universal menu to start playing games or doing whatever you want. The look and feel of this headset has some major upgrades over the Quest 2. The first thing you'll probably notice is how much thinner the headset is. It's technically heavier, but it really doesn't feel like it because of this newer form factor. It kind of just distributes the weight a lot better. It's a lot nicer to wear. The thinner form factor means the headphone jack and the USB Type-C port are now on the side of the headband instead of below it. This doesn't mean the headband's not replaceable anymore, it just uses a different mechanism. The native strap also does feel better than the Quest 2, but it's still nowhere near something like the Elite strap or its third-party alternatives. With those 2 additions, the headset feels much nicer to wear for extended periods of time. The facial interface is unfortunately not silicone, like the Quest 2 had after the foam one started causing skin irritation. But it's not a direct clone of the Quest 2 facial interface either. It doesn't feel as uncomfortable to wear as the Quest 2, but it's definitely not as good as the silicone one. I tried the facial interface cover that came free with the Quest 2, you know, if you bought one before or you got one. It doesn't fit that well. It's a shame. You'll need to buy a new one. The new lenses on this headset are the main thing you'll notice straight away. The Quest 3 takes advantage of pancake lenses, the same lens type that they used in the Quest Pro, leading to clearer visuals and less readjustments compared to the Fresnel lenses on the Quest 2. Essentially, you won't need to be grabbing the headset and moving it around on your head to get in focus as much as on the Quest 2. The lenses are much nicer to look at compared to its predecessor and pair very nicely with a higher resolution. You'll also notice the higher field of view that covers a lot more of your peripheral vision. These now cover 110 degrees of your field of view, 13 degrees higher than the 97 degree FOV on the Quest 2. Now, mixed reality is one of the biggest selling points of this headset, and it's basically the primary reason Meta is saying you should buy this over the Quest 2, especially right now where a lot of games don't really have optimization for the Quest 3 yet. It's the best out of any headset I've personally tried, and that's not saying much considering the only other headsets I've used are the Quest 2 over there and the Gear VR, the one you put the phone into. Yeah, those are the only 2 other headsets I've tried. Obviously, the pass-through on the Quest 3 is leagues above the black and white, warped, low frame rate, constantly overexposed, and low resolution pass-through of the Meta Quest 2. And it's evident by some of the reactions that I've seen with people that I give this to.
I can't see anything. Oh, whoa!
The mixed reality sensors make it much easier to perform tasks around the OS, particularly setting up boundaries. Using the extra sensors, I think mostly the depth sensor that's on the front of the headset, you don't need to draw the line on the floor to create the boundary anymore. You just look at the room and it does it for you. It's really cool. It also makes it a lot easier to do room setup as you just literally walk around the room and just look at it. And it does all the walls automatically. It unfortunately doesn't really add like furniture or anything else automatically, but we're still very early into the system's lifespan, and something that enables that or makes it easier could absolutely come in a future update. Like the Quest 2 looks very different now to when it first released. So turn the bedside lamp to 100%. Oh, there we go. That's why I wasn't as bright. Whoops. The pass-through is really cool though, just on its own. I'm able to walk around my house, make coffee, make a basic breakfast, use my phone and more without needing to take off my headset. Having a YouTube window floating in my kitchen while I turn on a kettle is one thing. The MR games that are out right now are heaps of fun too. Currently, I've played First Encounters, Neko Atsumi Kitty Collector, and First Hand, and all of them are able to use the MR in the headset to elevate the experience to another level.
This isn't the hub!
If I didn't have $8 in my account after buying the Quest 3 and the Ray-Bans, I would love to try out Espy 2 Stealth Operatives, which literally lets you defend your own home from soldiers. That is so cool. And 11 Table Tennis, which puts you and your opponent and the table in your actual room. I've heard great things about MR and Thrill of the Fight too, which I have, but I haven't gotten the chance to try it yet. And there's also a few MR features in Asgard's Wrath 2, where it just throws you into your room at some point and just lets you fight off monsters coming in through portals. I haven't played that far into the game yet. The current MR games that are out show some excellent potential, and I cannot wait to see what's out in a few years once the headset is more mature and some of the bugs are ironed out. Speaking of bugs, the MR is not perfect. First of all, you're going to notice that the pass-through appears much clearer in the recordings than it does when you're in the headset. That's not to say it isn't excellent while you're in the headset, but it's a bit misleading just looking at videos. It also seems to be very inconsistent between devices. I've heard many people say that the pass-through on their device is much more noisier or grainy than it's supposed to be, with YouTuber Bringhurst VR reporting that he had to factory reset his headset 8 times to get the pass-through looking how it's actually supposed to.
Probably my 7th or 8th at this point. And wouldn't you know it, that factory reset resulted in better clarity.
There's also a known bug with the battery saver mode that permanently reduces the resolution of pass-through and persists through factory resets. I'm really hoping that Meta fixes both of those bugs soon, because the pass-through on this is an excellent experience when it works properly. Now let's talk performance. Overall, right now in my testing, it's not dramatically... Did I say the benchmarks? I didn't include the benchmarks. Okay. Now let's talk performance. Overall, right now it's not dramatically better than the Quest 2, at least what you'll notice, but it does succeed very well in running the same game at the same or better frame rates while using less GPU and CPU power. And the small selection of Quest 3 optimized games run much better and look way more detailed on the system. The Quest 3 also has 2 gigs of extra RAM compared to the Quest 2, which assists in multitasking and navigating around the OS, while also adding some extra wiggle room for games to use more resources. The system has full backwards compatibility with Quest 2 games, and all of the ones that I've tried work flawlessly. The only issue that I've really run into is so far that downgrading Beat Saber, or any app for that matter, seems to be entirely broken for anyone trying to mod the game. The Beat Saber modding guide tells you to use this website for Quest 3 users because it lets you download the APK, but then Meta changed something in their authentication and now that website's broken, and that tells you to use the Quest app version Switch app, which doesn't work on the Quest 3. Hopefully this gets sorted soon, because I would love to play some Noodle extension maps on this headset. I think they'd run so much better compared to the Quest 2. Now for my scientific testing, I did some performance logging of 3 games, and I also ran some Android benchmarks. I don't know if that accurately portrays the performance, just because it's running as an Android app, but I'll start with the benchmarks. I forgot to put them in the script, so I'm just gonna pull them up. So starting with the benchmarks, again, I ran Wildlife in 3D Mark, and I ran Geekbench 5 on both of the headsets.
The screenshots I took of the benchmarks, I forgot to save them, and they didn't sync to the Quest app, and then I'd factory reset both the headsets, so just like trust me on these.
On the Quest 3, Wildlife scored a score of 5,831, and Geekbench 5 scored a 604 single core score and a 1,439 multi-core score. I was gonna throw my phone in there just to kind of give some comparisons, but on Wildlife, the score just said maxed out, so I don't really know what to make of that. Those results thrashed the Quest 2. The Quest 2 scored 1878 in Wildlife and a 594 single core score and an 898 multi-core score in Geekbench 5. So The Quest 2 has a lot more raw power, and it's going to be really cool to see what developers start doing with that once they get their hands on it and it becomes more mature and it's been out for a couple of years, because this only just came out in October. In terms of the game results, I played Asgard's Wrath 2, Beat Saber, and The Climb 2 up to a specific point. Beat Saber, I just played it for 10 minutes. Asgard's Wrath, I beat the first boss, and The Climb 2, I climbed the Alps medium difficulty mountain. I forgot the exact name. All of them ran great on both of the headsets, but the Quest 3 was able to consistently push a higher average frame rate while using less GPU and CPU power. In Asgard's Wrath 2, the game was noticeably more detailed and ran at a locked 90Hz instead of 72Hz, which is how it runs on the Quest 2. Asgard's Wrath 2 also pushed the CPU level up to 8 on the Quest 2. I didn't even know you could do that. For comparison, it maxes out at CPU level 4 on the Quest 3. Asgard's Wrath also had some major frame dips during intensive scenes on the Quest 2, dropping down to the low 60s in some cases. It had frame drops on the Quest 3, but they were dropping down to the 80s, which made it much less noticeable and a much smoother gaming experience. Beat Saber, flawless on both devices. On Quest 2, the game averaged at around 88 FPS, with occasional dips during loading screens, and an average of 90 FPS solid on the Quest 3. Beat Saber continues the trend of using more power on the Quest 2, with the CPU and GPU running at level 5 and between 3 and 4, compared to level 4 and 3 on the Quest 3. Beat Saber is able to run at 120 FPS on the Quest 3 unofficially with the Quest Games Optimizer tool, but that is a paid tool, and I have $8 in my bank account as mentioned earlier.
So I've actually just found out that the Quest 3 Beat Saber does have 120Hz support. It's optional and it's in beta, but it's something that the Quest 2 does not have. So
The Climb 2 has no optimization for the Quest 3 at the moment, which is evident by the fact that it runs at 72Hz on both devices. It's really the same story here too. The Climb 2 ran with lower CPU levels on Quest 3, although the GPU level was higher than Quest 2 in some cases, and it just had fewer frame drops. The game could easily have more detail and run at 90 FPS with optimizations, and I would love to see that happen, especially considering how good the first game looked and ran on PC VR. Around the OS, the home menu runs at 90 FPS, and the color pass-through cameras appear to be running at the same high refresh rate. The new controllers in the box are fairly similar, but just ditch the tracking lens entirely, like the controllers on the Quest Pro did. Unlike the Quest Pro controllers, they don't have their own independent tracking cameras to track motion when you move outside of the range of the inside-out tracking on the headset. You can use the Touch Pro controllers with Quest 3, but they cost 480 Australian dollars, which I'm going to say is absolutely not worth it. For that price, you could get some polarized Ray-Ban Meta Smart glasses, which you can watch my review on that. It's a good video and they're great glasses. You might only consider using those if you already have them, like with a Quest Pro. The controllers also have some really nice haptics and are more lightweight compared to the Quest 2 controllers. I didn't notice the weight at first, but it was very noticeable after I went back to the Quest 2 to test Beat Saber. The haptics, however, are very noticeable. It kind of feels more like an iPhone, for example, instead of a controller, and it feels very nice. Overall, the tracking feels more accurate, but it bugs out a bit harder when it does bug out in some scenarios. When playing Beat Saber in slightly lower light conditions than usual, and on some Expert and Expert Plus maps, I've had the controller just straight up freeze in midair. And, you know, obviously that causes me to fail immediately because I can't do the do. Hand tracking and space tracking also feel way more accurate compared to the Quest 2. Quick hand movements are picked up much more accurately, and I've never found myself puzzled about why my floor level in the headset appears to be a centimeter or 3 off my actual floor, unlike my experiences with the Quest 2. The new sensors on the device also enable upper body tracking without any additional sensors. You can't do legs yet, unfortunately, and I haven't looked into it too much, but it seems to be really good for games that take advantage of Meta's avatar system. The audio on the Quest 3 is noticeably better. I tested the speakers on both headsets by Listen to Prove It by 21 Savage in lossless quality. On the Quest 2, the bass can kind of be heard, but it's almost non-existent, and the speakers just sound kind of compressed, even on the FLAC file I was using to play the track. The bass on Quest 3 is a little bit better. It sounds a bit quieter, but more there, if that makes sense. And the rest of the audio spectrum just feels crisper, particularly with the high-end sounds. The speakers also do a better job of surround sound compared to the Quest 2. The bleed is heavy on both headsets. I had people from another room complaining about me playing music out loud during my testing at 70% volume. The battery life's interesting. On the Quest 3, you have a physically larger battery than the last gen, clocking in at 4,879 mAh, which is 1,239 more than the Quest 2. But the new SoC just draws a lot more power, especially with the new screens and the more sensors. You'll get around the same amount of gameplay, around 2 to 3 hours. And if you have a power bank that can push enough power, you can probably get a few more hours. I've seen reports of around 4 to 5 with around 4 to 5 hours with a power bank. Okay, now I have to talk about the price, which is my least favorite part, because that's when I remember, oh, I did spend that much. Guys, I'm not famous. They don't send these to me. I wish they did. Meta, come on. In Australia, don't worry Americans, I'll get to you next. You'll be spending around 800 Australian dollars for the base 128GB model and $1,050 for the 512GB model. In the US, the headset will set you back $500 for the 128GB and $649 for the 512GB. Now this sounds alright, but it's worth considering that the Quest 2 is still an excellent headset and it's still being actively supported by Meta, at least for a while. Currently that one's going for 440 Australian dollars and $250 for the 128GB model. And that is a much easier price to swallow if you're just looking to get into VR and you don't really care about MR that much and you aren't looking to play those heavier games. In fact, there currently aren't any games that only run on Quest 3. Obviously, this is going to change in the near future, but if you're only looking to play a few specific games and that's it, the Quest 2 might be a way better option for you.
So I'm editing, right? And you know, this is my setup. It's kind of fire. I got the pizza, but I got the iPad for the second monitor. It's kind of fire. One thing I've just realized is that I didn't, like give you guys a recommendation on the headset, whether I liked it or not. So this is that part of the video. I really like the Quest 3. I think it's definitely a worthy upgrade from a Quest 2 if you have that need to use MR or you want to try out some MR games, or if you just want to future-proof, you know, because Meta will inevitably stop supporting the Quest 2. I think it's definitely worth the price, and I really like the headset.
And that's all for this video. I've got a review of Meta's other on-face wearable, the Ray-Ban Meta sunglasses, which you can watch here, or you can check out my review on the Quest 2 over here, but that one's not as great as this one. If you like this video, hit that button, maybe even subscribe. It feels a lot weirder doing all the, generic YouTube stuff, knowing that my mum watches my videos now. Hi Mom. I've got an Instagram at CouldBeHades where I post photos of the things I'm about to review and some other cool stuff. You can check out my other socials in the description below as well. Thanks for watching and I'll see you guys next time.
I also did want to clarify, just before the end of this video, Meta did not provide any of the products sent to me. I purchased these entirely with my own money, and obviously the company did not have any editorial. They don't know I exist, basically. I received a couple comments about it in my Ray-Ban review, so I just wanted to make that clear from now on I'll start doing that.